This is why in Mutare you have seen that we came together with the Minister of Transport through the agencies as well as Mutapa Fund to come together to ensure that Air Zimbabwe, actually with CARS and ACZ, to ensure that the airport is refurbished, which is Grand Reef, and then Air Zimbabwe, and then NRZ, and because tourism is accessibility. If you want to make money or if you want to generate money using tourism sector, are people able to access where you think your attractions are? It was a surprise to, particularly to the internationals, but also to our domestic people as well. It was a surprise to discover that Manicaland is a gem. It has a lot to offer. But how do you access to get there? Do you want to drive? The road must be accessible. Do you want to go by air? There must be accessibility to that. Do you want to go by rail? It must be, and then it depends with your affordability and or convenience as well. So we think this, if we continue with the devolution of the program, it will give all these infrastructural development everywhere that we go. We're really vying for that, Faith, that everywhere we go, Air Zimbabwe must follow.
Okay.
With Sanganai. The rail must follow. Whether it's coming from Bulawayo to Masvingo, it's coming, there must be a way. You know, there must be options for a tourist to take when they think of going to a certain destination of our attractions in the country.
Minister, one of the arguments that have been made that post-Sanganai, we might see a decline in these services. The train might stop going to Mutare entirely. The air transport might stop entirely. Is this going to happen, or is this something that you see going to happen, or you have already put in place plans to make sure that we don't face such situations?
Well, as tourism, our duty is marketing. Marketing the destination and marketing this mode of transport that we have advocated for to come to Manicaland, just for as an example. But it's also business that Air Zimbabwe runs, because people don't just get on the plane for free anyway. It's also a business that NRZ is running as well. So just like any other business, it will start slow until people get used to it. Yes, that talk has been there that it's going to end. Soon after Sanganai, Air Zimbabwe will stop. No, it's not stopping. Soon after Sanganai, the train will stop. No, it's not stopping. But people want to be sure how long this is going to take, right? So there are also fears that it will go. Is it real, actually? And is it going to be continuous? Sustainability of that depends on the people of Manicaland, but also on all of us as Zimbabweans. If you have business that you are always doing in Mutare, because, you know, the wonder is, how come early in the morning, Faith, if you drive towards Manicaland, the road is so busy, particularly with the traffic that is coming into the capital city. As you know, even right now, if you try to drive to Manicaland, it's packed. You get to Manicaland at 10 p.m. because the road is packed. So it means there's so much business between Harare and Manicaland. So we are thinking that, okay, those who choose to drive for any reasons, that's fine. But a lot of us who are going there for business, it's very convenient to have a 30-minute flight to Mutare in the morning and come back in the evening. The same as the vice versa is also quite good. So we think people they would want to know the sustainability, the continuity of it, and they'll get used to it. So we are together with Air Zimbabwe in advertising this flight, as well as with NRZ in advertising this flight. We know very well that there is a lot of trade between Mozambique and Harare as a capital, besides being Mozambique and Zimbabwe. But we have a lot of business between Mozambique and our country. And other people would want to go as far as Bulawayo, going to take their wares from Mozambique, from the border fobs, going into Harare or into other cities. And we are saying now you have an easy way of taking your big bags or your packages that are bigger to fit in the buses or to fit in your car. Use the train. But for us, once you are in the train, you are a tourist. For business reasons, business tourism is for church, it's religious tourism and so forth. So I'm sure that it will be viable to have a flight to Mutare.
So I'm sure for most it would have made sense for the expo to move to the Eastern Highlands. It is a tourist attraction, like you did say. But then we're talking about moving it to different provinces and different places every year. What is going to be the benchmark that's going to determine which province gets to host Sanganai next?
Okay, so what we have done about Manicaland, what has made us choose Manicaland is, in our view as a tourism government arm, we think Manicaland is next to Victoria Falls. Yeah, we have had the buyers that came from the international fraternity telling us that it's actually nice. It depends with what you want or what you prefer or your taste rather. What is your holiday? If you are calling it a holiday, do you want to be with animals, or you want to be with water, or you want to be with landscapes, or you want to be with agrotourism, agriculture, or whatever? It's your choice. So other people who have choices to be in the landscapes, in that view, they were saying it's actually beautiful more than Victoria Falls, but we know it's a wonder. Victoria Falls, one of the 7 wonders of the world. So it depends with your choices, but also a tourist needs to be given choices. Zimbabwe, Victoria Falls has been known as if it's the only thing that we have in Zimbabwe, yet we have a lot that we can offer. If it's about water, we have so many big dams, man-made Kariba, we have all the lakes that are in Masvingo there and in other places. We even have falls in Tarazi Falls in Manicaland. So that's those that are water fans. But what about those that wants to be with the serene environment and all that? Manicaland is the place. We've always been known as a Little England or Switzerland.
Yes, that's what they call it.
Because of also our plantations that are there for various fruits and so forth and so on. So it depends. But otherwise, they were in awe to discover that Zimbabwe has a gem called Manicaland. So it is good for us to show the world. How best could we have told the world? Because, Faith, we go to a lot of travel market shows that we speak about Victoria Falls, but we even try to avoid to speak about Victoria Falls, but the world knows Zimbabwe is Victoria Falls. Fair enough. But how best would we have shown them or let them know that it's not just about Victoria Falls? We also have these serene landscapes. We also have agrotourism. We also have medical tourism. That is, our hot springs and so forth and so on. How would they know? Unless we would have had our Sanganai in another province.
So more of taking the tourists where the tourism is, something along those lines.
We are endowed with, vast attractions that many other countries, Faith, do not have. And we need to preach a lot about them and to demonstrate and to show. So what happens with the buyers? There are those marketeers who wants to experience first. They are very lucky because they come, they sleep in the hotels for free. They come, they have these activities for free because there are those that go and preach that Zimbabwe has this.
And then they bring the
tourists in the country. So without doing that, it's, with you just saying, or you put up an electronic billboard, you show that, people say, wow. But because Victoria Falls has always been known for all these years, people only know Zimbabwe as Victoria Falls. And our objective is to let the internationals know that we have more. But, Faith, let me say, it's not just about internationals. I mean, this is me as an individual. Our domestic tourists, our domestic people do not know what Zimbabwe has to offer in terms of our attractions.
True.
Yeah, we do not know. Yet domestic tourism is bigger than international tourism in terms of generating income, particularly that we use the same currency as the internationals use. Domestic tourism is big. So why would a person who is a Zimbabwean gets to 18 years without knowing what is in Tarazi Falls?
But then most of the complaints, Minister, from people who are local is to say traveling within Zimbabwe is quite expensive.
True that.
And why is that? Is there not a way to cut down costs for domestic travelers?
What we have done with Zimbabwe Faith already is a way of trying to cut down, because if our own national airline is able to access our attractions, obviously it comes cheaper than the private airlines. So if you compare, it's just that now it's only Zimbabwe that is going to Mutare, but we shall see as time goes on, because other airlines would want to land at Grand Reef as well. But definitely private sector, they run for more profit than when it's government. Zimbabwe will remain cheaper as it is right now. To take it to South Africa and to other places is quite cheaper. So we are aiming, of course, the economy is not so good at the moment, and we are still thriving to get to where we are still striving to get to where we want to be. But definitely Zimbabwe will be cheaper. Definitely the railway, the train is quite cheaper. And then the road also must be cheaper. So those are things that we want to work together with the Ministry of Transport and their agencies to see how best we can promote. And besides transport being expensive, we also have accommodation issues.
Yes.
Accommodation, it's quite expensive. We even have the restaurants are also quite expensive compared to other countries. This is why we thank Minister Mtuli and his team that they have come to a conclusion that the license fees and the registration fees and all the spectrum of the licensing must be lower. We are trying to make business easier for private sector, and it will continue as we go, particularly in our industry. I'm sure we have a lot that we need to bring down.
And now it's a good thing that we're now talking about the business aspect or business spectrum of the tourism expo that just ended. Were there any interesting buyers or interesting deals that came out of Sanganai that the ministry is going to be undertaking or pursuing?
Okay, so most of the buyers, they come as marketeers, as I told you. I'm very happy to say a number of them were so excited and they booked their tourists already coming. Well, I know of a group that are coming in November already to come to Manicaland. They really loved Wonde Valley, you know, like what Jeremy Clark's was very, very excited about Wonde Valley. They want to go and see agrotourism in Chipinge and also want to spend a little time in Chimanimani. That's an interest about the market itself and vis-a-vis our destination. We also had investment forum where this was more with our locals, and we know tourism is a low-hanging fruit. We are influencing the diaspora to invest back home and to show them that this is what we have within the sector. It's so much easy if they have crowdfunding in the diaspora, put their money together and start to build lodges and start to build. There's so much need to increase our accommodation, and the more it is, it means the price would be manageable. Now it's expensive because it's scarce, particularly when you're in Victoria Falls, but we are encouraging the diasporas, a lot of them. But of course, I think we had one or two interest from international, particularly from South Africa, who really want to invest in our Masue land that we have, where the cricket stadium is being constructed.
Okay.
Yeah, so because it's 260, it's been 270 hectares. Now 10 hectares has been taken by Zimbabwe Cricket, and the rest of it needs an uptake. So we had a lot of interest for that from the internationals, but diaspora, more of them.
Now, let's focus now on the tourism and hospitality industry policy. Exciting times for the tourism sector. It's anchored on 6 goals, as I've read. For just the benefit of our audience, if you could just briefly tell us what this policy is saying or what it speaks to.
Okay, again, for quite some time, we didn't have a tourism policy. And as our country is evolving, led by the vision for our president and his strategies, we thought we should have a tourism policy that is anchoring on, in particular, infrastructure development. We need that. Whether it's about in accommodation or accessibility, as we said. So accessibility is usually done by the government anyway. So we want to influence a lot of that. But also our human capital, whereby now there's been a gap. Even at Sanganai, we ran what we call scholastic session, where we are trying to bridge a gap between the academias and the industry. Where the industry has been saying, I think it was in 2024 beginning, where the industry has been complaining that the students that are coming from our academia session, academia side, they are not fit
for the industry.
And we are wondering, because it was mismatching. Zimbabwe is the highest, one of the highest countries in Africa with literate people, with the best education, so to speak. But because the president has introduced Heritage 5.0, with the realization that there's a mismatch between the education itself, the literature part of it, and the skills. So 5.0 is more about the skills. So we then thought, how best can we link the academia and the industry so that they sing the same song, whereby you find that the industry may not be really understanding what Heritage 5.0 is really about, what is it about, and what it means in the context of tourism. So we have seen that this year's edition was far much better, singing almost same song, and you'll be surprised how these students are intelligent. This is one of our pillars that we want to address, but we also want to address sustainable tourism.
Okay.
UN tourism, as it aims for the SDGs, the 2063 SDGs, it is telling us that the sustainability of tourism is in communities and in going green. There's a lot that is happening with the climate change. We need to preserve energy, we need to preserve water, and there's a lot of energy that is consumed within our industry, and a lot of water that is also consumed in our industry. We must come up with means of reducing the consumption of electricity, like from the direct grid of the country, and come up with alternatives. Why don't we make it a policy that we want everyone to go there slowly? By the time we get to 2063, probably no one will be using the direct grid if we start right now. This is another issue. Communities. These attractions that we're talking about, Faith, are being looked after by certain communities. If you go to Great Zimbabwe, if you go to other places that I was talking about with you before we started, you find the poorest communities. Yet there is an attraction where people visit.
Right in the midst.
Yes. People are visiting and they are paying money to get into this place. What are we doing about these communities? Are they the ones who are employed? Are they the ones who are trained? Are they the ones who are also just getting, help from the business owners around them? What is government doing about it? Because without these communities, our animals won't be what we think they are. They are those who are not about these animals. When we are saying Americans are the top of our market, and when they come in the country, they come for animals. Where are the animals in Hwange? But what is happening with the communities around Hwange? When the money is being left in Hwange, when the money is being left at Malilangwe, when the money is being left at Bumi Hills, where is that money going? Is it going within the value chain of tourism, through employment, through food? Because people consume food. How about these business owners, doing projects with just an example, President is saying he's putting up presidential borehole schemes for people to get clean water and nutritional gardens, which are being run by the Agriculture Ministry. But those gardens, if these business operators in tourism come together with the communities, they can give them orders of what they want, as in feeding into their restaurants, buy them seeds, because water is there already, the government is provided. If it's not there, it's also their responsibility. They could be doing that. And then give them seeds, plant, grow, and then buy back from them. At least those families will be surviving, Are there schools around that? Or are we taking, children from that community to go and train them, to take them to schools of tourism so that they will be employed and these families will have better life? That way, we would have contributed to the vision for the president for upper middle income society in 2030. Because for as long as somebody has clean water, they have electricity around them. Because look, I'll give you an example of Great Zimbabwe Hotel. There's electricity direct from the grid, but just a kilometer away, the communities around there do not have electricity. Why are we not connecting them
into that?
We have to be feeding, just as a way of appreciating. Because without those people in the communities, when just about a month ago during Ramza, I had the privilege to accompany the UN DG, the UNESCO DG, for heritage side, for the work that they've done there. We had these people singing for us, dancing for us. They're the ones who are the curators. They know the history about Great Zimbabwe. But when they go home, they are the poorest people. So we are encouraged as governments, as countries, to ensure that these communities play a big role, and we need to integrate. So it's one of our policies that we have come with, which I've just mentioned, the three that are very important: human capital, infrastructural development, and sustainable tourism. But otherwise, all of them, the six of them, are very important.
It's very important that you did mention the issue of the communities around, because it seems there's some sort of disconnect between tourism industry and the communities within which they live, and hoping that this bill will really address that and really speak to what you were saying, to say we want the communities around tourism sites to develop well.
Yeah, so in our bill, it's there. So there's a separation between the police, the bill, and because the bill is an act, it's actually a law. The police is just guiding the industry to say this is what the government want to achieve together with you. But of course, it speaks the same with what we have put in the bill, which is now been tabled at the parliament. But yes, we have an intention to make it a law that if you are operating in a certain area, and Faith, it also feeds into devolution anyway. Why do you go and buy tomatoes in another place when you have people who can plant tomatoes for you? I mean, it's as simple as that. How can people around, the children around Great Zimbabwe or around Victoria Falls, go to school barefoot when they have a heritage site that brings people internationally to come and pay? What are we doing as government to link this, to ensure that this, because they're the ones who know how Moswatunya has come to be, right?
That's true.
So it's about accommodation, it's about restaurants, the food itself, and all these attractions. You know, even our vocational training centers for tour guides. Who should be a tour guide in any place in Gonarejo? It has to be
people from
Gonarejo, because they know better, they know the environment better, they know their animals better, and we need to improve their livelihoods through such a law. So we are sure that everybody will be agreeing with us that we need to improve livelihoods in these areas.
Now, we're still talking about the bills, the acts, the funding and all that. There is a recently approved Tourism Amendment Bill 2025, which introduces a tourism council to oversee the Zimbabwe Tourism Fund. Yes. And this is to help enhance transparency as well as accountability. How will this new regulatory framework ensure fair and effective distribution of the funds and ensure compliance amongst our operators?
Okay, so tourism fund is already in the existing bill, but we have now enhanced it with making it quite transparent to everyone. People must know that the tourism operators, they're actually not the ones who pay the tourism fund. The tourism fund is paid by you, Faith, who's the tourist at any facility that you go. If you go to Nando's right now, go to Chicken Inn, go to any restaurant, a sit-in or whatever. I'm just talking about the food side of it. But even if you go to a lodge, you go to a hotel, you go to other facilities of tourism, there's a line written 2%. The tourism levy 2%.
2%, yes.
So everything that you buy from these outlets or from these facilities is charged 2% levy. It's charged on you as the tourist, right? But now the law says there's no any other way we can make the tourist bring this money to us as the government. We can only trust each other with the operator. So the operator is the one who's receiving this money and to remit to us. But now there hasn't been systems that would be connecting the two of us, which is the government and the operator. And in the new bill, we are saying we must have ICT infrastructure in place. It's also in the policy. ICTs must be developed, because without innovation, we cannot be where we want to be, where we want to go, Faith. But now, going back to ZTF, which is Zimbabwe Tourism Fund, when the tour operators remit this fund to us as government, we are not also supposed to run it on our own. As Minister of Tourism and Hospitality Industry, no, we have to run it with our treasury. I cannot write what I want and say this man must do 1, 2, 3 without my treasury. Colleague minister, which is Minister Mtuli and his team. But again, we have most important stakeholder in the scheme of things, who is the operator, the receiver of the money. Because this money, the purpose of it, according to the law, is to go and market more our destination and develop tourism infrastructure more, right? Not really, to go out there and say we are on a rampant of building hotels and what. No, but if if we have a partner like what we did with Sheraton, then we had Chinese partner, and the money of government came from there. It wasn't called Tourism Fund by then, right? It had a different name. But it's that man that helped Sheraton to be constructed. So if we have a private player, or we have somebody else, or pension fund who want to come together with us, in consultation with my colleague Minister of Finance, and in consultation with the operators, we plan together and say, okay, look at the road going from Beitbridge to Victoria Falls. It's not looking good, and we are happy with Minister Mona and his team. Now they are working on the road. But all that time we were just keeping quiet. But the operators must be complaining to us, because if they are remitting that 2% levy, we must come together with the Ministry of Transport, with whoever, if it's a PPP from the private players, or we have to chip in as well to open up the road. This is why for Sanganai in Mutare, we came together with cars. No, we came together with the Ministry of Transport through their agent cars and ACZ to put up the grant reef. Because yes, it's a whole of government approach, but we must have this fund on the table. So two things are happening. The fund, some operators are paying it because they don't want to be rubbing bed shoulders with the government, but we don't even know when they pay us. We don't even know whether it's enough or it's not. But they're just paying for their records, right? And then there are some who do not pay at all because there is no mechanism that links the two. Okay. So now in the new law there will be a mechanism, and everybody has to come to know that it's now reality that they have to pay ZTF, but we have to come together to know what that money should be doing. This is why we have put the council. You had asked about the council to monitor what this money does.
And who is using it for what?
Who is using it for what? Zimbabwe Tourism Authority is an entity on its own that is mandated to regulate the industry and to market. So they also get this money for marketing from the fund. Okay. But now if we say Zimbabwe Tourism Authority is the one who's receiving the money and doing what they want, this is why they're just marketing at the moment, and there are no road signs that tells you that there's a hotel, or there are no road signs that tells you that there's a restaurant when you are traveling. And that's why we are not able to come together with our stakeholders to bring in bulk infrastructure in special economic zones that the president has given us for tourism, so forth and so on. So we thought for the transparency purposes, we must separate Zimbabwe Tourism Authority and Zimbabwe Tourism Fund, though it can be housed together. Now the council will be just focusing on the fund, liaising or in consultation with the operators, what needs to be done in Masvingo, what needs to be done in what are we doing this year, and then we agree together with the Minister of Finance, and then the work goes.
So now that has become your accountability partner.
It is. I have to be accountable for that. But you know, when we saw that it was a bit skewed, I then thought with my team, let's fix this and let's bring this out together. Because if we go to Treasury, direct to Treasury and say we want to construct, people are crying about accommodation in Victoria Falls. Yes. It's very expensive, but it's because there is no accommodation that has a share of the government.
That can make it affordable.
That can make it lower because it's run. So it can also help to regulate these prices. Yes, we know ease of doing business is quite difficult. In other sectors. But I will tell you, Faith, but sometimes we know deep inside as the regulators that no, it's not really that. It's lack of competition, it's lack of something like that. So if government is able to provide for certain things, like we have done with Air Zimbabwe, it will be good. Any domestic tourist would be able to go to Vic Falls, would be able to go to Wange, would be able to go to Chiredzi, Gonarisho, because the government has its own facilities.
Now, Minister, you mentioned something, another very important point, the ease of doing business. This is also another thing that most people, players, operators within the tourism industry have been complaining about, issues of licensing and permits. You have to go through a rigorous process for you to attain one license and the other. What is being done to help ease the burden of doing business amongst our operators? Okay, so we thank President for enabling ease of doing business from the beginning. Barriers to entry of the business itself to start tourism. I think we were the second ministry to have license slashed, and most of them are slashed by 50%, some 60%, and some were scrapped completely, which means starting business in the tourism sector is now very, very easy. Okay. And even renewing your licenses, renewing your registration, or grading rather, grading would come, I'm just giving it as an example, would come every other year, after every 2 years, and you would be paying a lot of money, right? But now
it's been slashed by half. Yeah.
So that has helped the operators
yes.
themselves.
In fact, I will be very honest with you, we had stopped grading now because the operators have been complaining that it's a lot of money. They have TVs that are also licensed, one individual in a room, to an extent of licensing toilets, toilet seats. If a hotel has 200 rooms, they've been paying license for one toilet seat.
Why do you have to pay a license for a toilet seat?
No, because well, it's been there. It's been there. It's even there in other countries as we speak, because of the sewerages and whatever. You know, when you are in hotels, in lodges, the sewer is used more than
any other place,
than in the domestic homes. So it could have been that, but now it's been scrapped completely. There are so many things that have been scrapped, but we still understand that it's not yet enough for the business to operate. It's easy, and for our operators to gain their profit, their bottom line to be improving. But I'm sure by just this that we've done, it can have an impact. We still have to work on the electricity issues, like I told you, on the water issues, like I told you. But again, that Zimbabwe Tourism Fund can be part of the money that we can help our operators to go green. You know, they can be borrowing at lower interest and go green with their facilities, and borrow at lower interest to have the water solutions that we are seeing other countries are going, purification of the same water that has been used in terms of bathing and so forth. So those are some of the things that we think Zimbabwe Tourism Fund can be helping, but that we also think can ease the way of doing business in our sector.
Now, the ministry, in as much as the ministry is doing all of this to help players within the sector, there are players themselves that are making it difficult for others to do business in the same environment. B&Bs that are apparently not registered, that are not paying taxes and levies. Has the ministry been identifying these places, and have you been shutting them down or giving them penalties?
Well, we know a lot of them. We've been going around, you know, looking for these operators who are operating Airbnbs, but the law is coming for them. We have changed. Actually, we have added on the existing law that we had in terms of having everyone to register, and now it's much easier because we just register to register your business is $20. You know, what's wrong with registering that you are existing? And then to license follows. It goes together with grading. You know, we want to know whether your Airbnb is a one star, 2 star, 3 star, or whatever. Then you are licensed. What's wrong with that? The worst thing that is happening, Faith, is money is being exchanged in air with the booking platforms on the phones, or you know, on the ICT gadgets. People just go into their phone, they go on booking.com, they find a nice Airbnb, they book, they pay, and our operators here are paid through cards and through, you know, it's all skewed. It's not straightforward. A, B, and B should be paying their taxes. Booking.com should be paying the Zimbabwe government their taxes, and now we've found out how best to deal with that, because South Africa has done that and Zambia is on its way, because it was even difficult to find where Booking.com resides. But now we know where they are, and with our law in place, we'll just say we'll flag it in. And of course, we are not going to just go rampant on everybody, but we are now starting to talk about it. The bill has been tabled in Parliament. Be careful if you are a straightforward business person, or if you are smart enough to run a business, go and register your business, go and license. When it comes to be a law, we shall also give a leeway to notify everybody, give them months to clean up their mess, and then we'll start shutting down.
So how soon then do you think the whole Booking.com website is going to start getting licensing, and do you think they would agree to do that, or if they risk being shut down in a certain country?
No, they have to agree. They have to agree, because it's a law in a country. If you continue operating in a country without abiding by the law, you know the consequences. So they will have to agree. They've agreed with South Africa. They are now in the process of agreeing with Zambia and many other countries. But you'll be very surprised that in other developed countries where they operate, like your UKs, like your Americas, they are paying taxes to those governments. They come to Africa, they don't pay. But now you put your law in place.
And
sometimes you arrest somebody and you go into your books, then you don't even know why you arrested them. So now we are going to put our law in place and to say you need to sanitize. It's just sanitizing. It's not like they don't know. They know. Even our operators, they also know what they are supposed to be doing.
Now, Minister, as we now just go on to just try to round out this conversation, let's talk about the new tourism-only border crossing between Kruger National Park and Gondrejo National Park. It's been described as a game-changer for cross-border eco-tourism. How does this pilot project fit into Zimbabwe's broader regional integration strategy for tourism? Okay,
so you all know that you learn from others. South Africa is leading in terms of their tourism growth and all that, and even the policies that they've always put in place. So integrating Gondrejo and Kruger National Park, I think it's actually a plus to us as Zimbabwe and probably to Mozambique as we extend. But otherwise, it's easy of also doing business, number one, and easy of accessibility, because it has been a problem in terms of running two borders and then the process of going to Kruger when you're coming out. So we used to have a lot of complaints when I was a deputy minister in the Ministry of Environment and Tourism, where the tourists would complain more about our Zimbabwe side
than the
other side. But now, as we came together, now it's seamless. If we want the tourists to come as more as possible in our country, because apparently the Zimbabwe side of things is much more beautiful.
Okay.
In as much as Kruger is beautiful. So yes, tourists would want to access, but then the harassment of the processes and all that was not good for them. But now this integration gives them a seamless passage to both sides. So we now enjoy those that used to come ending in South Africa. They can now come into Zimbabwe. I think a few months ago you have seen these Americans and the British who had big cars, and showing the ease of our borders being combined and the work that we are doing together. So, and wildlife is big, Faith. Wildlife is the biggest tourism destination that many markets favors. So it is worthy for us to have these transporters like the one that we have on the northern side with Zambia, Namibia, Angola, Zimbabwe and Botswana. The 5 countries have CASA. It's also the issue of easy accessibility and
seamless
the flow.
Travel.
And above everything, these animals and the water, they know no boundaries.
That's
and
true.
Even our vegetation, they know no boundaries. So they mate in another country, they give birth in another country, and then they grow their children in another country. So it gives joy to both the people, the animals, and even our climate. Yes.
So this is something that is going to continue happening, the issue of creating seamless borders for tourists.
For all of us. If it was easy to do it with all the borders, it was going to be much better. Seamless accessibility is key in tourism. So it's for the region. We are happy that as we were chairing the president, Dr. Idi Mnangagwa, when he was chairing SADC, we moved some strides of coming together, and as a region, it's much easier if we would have a SADC visa. For anyone who's coming into the country,
that has been discussed.
It would much easier. But we ran the pilot for CASA in Zimbabwe, topped on that one. We did very well. We were doing it together with Zambia, and the bigger numbers were in Zimbabwe. And that is an indicator, Faith, to show you that Zimbabwe is loved. Zimbabwe is endowed with what the world wants, because a number of more than 30,000 people came in using CASA visa.
That's a big number
compared to what Zambia came up with. So we are good, and we want to be good with everyone who's in the region for accessibility and seamless flow on these borders.
So what tourists want is just seamless travel.
They want seamless travel. When
you
are in EU, once you enter into one of their countries, you have already entered. When you try to enter in Spain from France, it's just
easy.
one visa. They are happy. It's been stamped by France and it's seamless. So this is what we should achieve. But those little things that we have done with Kruger and Gonaresho and with the Kaza, I think they are helping. We are on a good trajectory.
Small steps leading to bigger things.
Yes.
Now, Minister, after all this has been discussed, we've talked about the new policy, we've talked about the Sanganai, Kumbanai, Hlanganani Expo, we've talked about what the future of tourism is going to look like in the next 5 years as we are attaining this $10 billion economy. What are your parting words to our audience tonight?
Okay, let's love our country first. We are the owners of Zimbabwe. Let's love our country first. And us as your ministry, we really want to continue working hard that the attractions that we have in our country, you are able to access them easily. You are able to afford accessing them, because we know a lot of us cannot afford to access many of these attractions that we have. We will tirelessly work on that for you to access everywhere. We want to come with programs that can make people go out there as families, go out there as friends, go out there as government employees, very, very key. And to bring Zimbabwe to the Zimbabweans. We are the ones who own this country. So we must know it first before anyone else. That's number one. Number two, we must know it first before we go and know other countries. That's what we are aiming for. And let's work together to make Zimbabwe a better place and to make Zimbabwe the best country to visit. I thank you.
Well, Minister, thank you so much for sitting down with me tonight.
All right.
Now, thank you so much for joining us. You have been watching The Chase. Today in studio, I was joined by Barbara Rosie, the Minister of Tourism and Hospitality in Zimbabwe. My name is Faith Nyawade. Good evening and pleasant viewing.